My name is Tara Glowacki, and I was part of Winnipeg Center Vineyard for most of the past decade. I loved my time in the vineyard. I loved the worship times, I loved being prayed for, I loved learning to pray for people in ways that anticipated that God was going to show up. I loved that I was encouraged to use my gifts as a teacher and a leader when those roles had not been allowed for me in the churches I grew up in because I'm a woman. I loved being able to hang out with the street community, having the opportunity to struggle alongside friends in Winnipeg's inner city. I loved community suppers and dance parties at Flatlanders Inn. I loved my job there. And I loved being able to wrestle with what it means to do justice in a difficult context, alongside friends who were wrestling with similar questions. However, in 2015, I began to feel really uncomfortable with my church's silence on LGBTQ matters. I realized it had been years since I'd heard anyone mention anything LGBTQ related in church, and as my own theology shifted towards affirming, it really bothered me that my church might be holding barriers for LGBTQ people, just like the barriers that the churches I grew up in had held against me as a woman. I began asking questions, and I began thinking about coming out publicly as a way to move the conversation forward. I did wind up coming out throughout 2017 and 2018, and while some friends reacted well, others responded terribly. A few close friends from my small group complained to church leadership about me, and the pastoral team banned me from any kind of teaching. That was a devastating betrayal. The lead pastor had asked me to come out and had assured me that it wouldn't impact my role in the church, and yet here I was, again, in a church that didn't let me use my gifts for reasons that had nothing to do with my character or with my abilities. I did wind up participating in the church's public dialogues, and I remember talking about my orientation and my theology on stage, while former friends glared at me from within the congregation. I felt the difference afterwards in the ways that they talked to me, or in some cases didn't talk to me. Church began to feel tense. I felt overwhelming anger every Sunday as I looked around and wondered how these people could forget that we had been family together for so long. And I felt crippling anxiety as I wondered if this place that I loved could still be my home. I wound up leaving the vineyard in 2018 after several conversations with national leaders made it clear that the vineyard had no intention of becoming a place where I could be the kind of pastor that I wanted to be, or where I could be part of the kind of church I wanted to be part of. I mourned for a long time after leaving the vineyard, and it was only within the past few months that I really began to feel like I'm moving on and thriving in my new church. To those of you who are St. Croix Vineyardites, or I guess ex-Vineyardites now, and to others who have done what you can to help the vineyard to do better, thank you. It has been so encouraging to know that there's others out there who care, and to feel like we're standing in solidarity with each other from our different ends of the country. It really mattered as we were struggling with the church in Winnipeg to know that we weren't alone. So thank you. I grieve the recent Vineyard Canada decision with you, and I bless you in the next stage of your journey.